Hey, what's going on, guys? Niamh Kingsley here. In this video I'd like to tell you how I use Python code to improve my Korean, believe it or not. And before anything else, I'd like to give a credit to Niamh Kingsley, the author of the original idea that I kind of took to a slightly little bit of next level. So the idea is very simple. We just take the Korean text as an input, then breaking down the entire sentence or text into words, into tokens to be exact, and meanwhile associating those tokens with the parts of speech types, like if this is a verb, a noun, an adjective, an adverb, a particle, and so on. And then we do some sort of a bulk translation, so we have a dynamic dictionary being created in that way. And this was the part of the original idea by Niamh, but what I mean by saying taking this into a next level, I also added some web scraping techniques in order to get the verb conjugation forms, the conjugated forms for the verbs and adverbs and adjectives, because that makes sense when you want to use a certain verb or adjective or adverb in a slightly different tense that it's used in the sentence. So that's kind of it. And another improvement that I made, so apart from just a plain rendering to either a CSV file or just to this like table, I actually made an interactive table using the jQuery data tables plugin. So that's the scope of the current tutorial. Just to give you an idea how the end result looks, I'd like to show you this. This is available in public currently, so just to give you an idea. So here is the auto-generated vocabulary from this kind of text. Regarding the sources of this text, I'll tell you this just right in a moment. We have the full English translation, and then we have a word-by-word breakdown here. Okay, so we have the word, the type, the translation, and if in case if this is say adjective or a verb, we do have kind of like a conjugated forms. Okay, so let's say we want to have the nouns only, let's say we have to want the verbs only, the adjectives only, and so on. So we can do this in a really kind of quite easy way. So adjectives like this, adverbs, the only adverb here. So this is kind of what we can do within this sort of an app. Well, it's not an app really, but just the auto-generated dictionary from current given Korean text. So now, as far as you are aware of how the end result of applying the Python code and skills, Python skills as well. As far as you're aware how the end result of the matter of application of this Python code and skills looks like. So here's how it looks like. Now we can actually go into a little bit more details. So I'll demonstrate you like all the kind of history behind this, like all the circumstances bringing into this particular solution, and why exactly this is so beneficial when you're learning a language. And I'm not sure about other languages, but for Korean in particular, for me personally as a Korean learner, this makes absolutely fantastic and amazing sense. So without further ado, let's actually go. By the way, for those of you who don't actually want to watch the entire video, just feel free to use the timestamps either embedded with those embedded into the video or in the description below or in the pinned commentary, so you could only watch those parts that you're actually interested in. Okay, so now we can actually start. So the idea, so instead of just reading all this fantastic blog post in loud, I'll give you a link in the description below. And instead of kind of reading this, I will just demonstrate the steps that I described here that are kind of bringing you to the idea of a need to, where the need to have this sort of auto-generated vocabulary actually rising. So just to give you an idea how to come up with this sort of idea if you're learning a language. And as far as I was in that situation, and I was searching for somewhat like this, and actually I came across this sort of article because I was looking for, I was trying to invent this on my own, but fortunately someone has already grouped this into a single idea that you only need to take and implement, and that's kind of it. So without further ado, let's actually start. So as a Korean learner, it's all about taking some sort of the Korean content as an input and then actually parsing it to tiny little building blocks, getting familiar with those building blocks, trying to understand the grammar structures behind behind the way of how those little tiny little building blocks are connected together. And then you want to translate them, you want to know grammatically which part of speech it is, you need to keep track of the word order, like in Korean this would be like subject, object, verb, and if you extend the sentence it would be like subject, time, place, object, adverb, and verb. So that's kind of it. And just to give you an idea how I was doing this before actually coding this sort of an app. It's not an app really, it's just better to call it just a Python script, right? So before I coded this Python script, I really needed to go through the real hell in order to come up with acquiring the content that I'm actually trying to acquire, right? So let's start from this absolutely amazing, a really long sentence in Korean by Talk to Me in Korean. So it's very nice sentence showing how in particular one can create really kind of long sentences. So like it's more about the sentence connectors, I would say. So the absolutely natural thing to do would be just to grab this sort of a thing and go into Google Translate and have the overall kind of like a translation of this sort of a phrase, of a sentence. However, even if you do understand the entire meaning, this doesn't really help you much in terms of breaking down this grammatically, and it won't help you in learning at all, because it's just the machine-based translation, well, probably most likely involving some machine learning algorithms to make it a little bit more human-like, but it doesn't really help in terms of learning. So what will we do as a humans in order to make it kind of like more valuable from the learning perspective? So we'll start breaking down this into the smaller parts, right? So let's say I start like 집에서 창밖을 보니까 날씨가 좋아 보였어. Oh, okay, so I think that I can just stop here and I see, okay, so looking out of the window, the weather looks good. So we have kind of two things. So I'm saying like, so 날씨가 좋아 보였어. So this seems like the weather was good. Okay, because the weather looks good. Okay, so we got already kind of two sentences now, and now we need to, so let's say we can actually, let's just get rid of anything else for simplicity for now. So we have this 집에서 창밖을 보니까. So looking out of the window at home. And the next thing, we just want to break this down like so, and we see like at home, out of the window, and I see. But now the most interesting part comes in. So as far as we did kind of manually tokenize the sentence into, let's say, words, then we encounter the situation where the word itself might not contain the only part of speech, but in this case, let's say we have the noun, which is jip, which literally means a house, but this so is a particle, and together it translated as at home. So the next thing to consider is to do like this. But let's say that you're not sure, that you're not aware that this is a particle or something, so you don't actually really know where exactly to break down. So let's say you do like this, it just goes to total nonsense, which is not the case. So this is what we need to do next. So we need to have a single word being translated, then another one being translated, then again, like we see the noun, and here we have the particle, so we can split the particle, and we see like outside the window. We can break this even more. So it's like window, outside, okay. 보니까, so boy is to see, 니까 is because, and we're not sure we can split this, so probably not. And so this is the result we eventually come up with, but this is incredibly long, and bearing in mind the entire sentence, it takes really ages to break down everything. And I just need to say one very important thing, guys, that before I didn't actually want to start even searching for automated dictionary generation techniques when I just started learning Korean, because I thought that doing everything manually by hands would help me to learn better. If I just walk through every single word, it would help me. I don't know, for me it doesn't work absolutely, but when I do this automatically, this actually comes out to be much more helpful. So hence the reason why I actually created this sort of a script. But anyway, I think now you already got the point. So I just did this manual parsing, and now I can just manually assign the part of speech types to the words. So jib means, so this is house, so this is the noun. So in would be particle in case of Korean, and in Korean this would be called josa. So don't get confused by the word. If you see this in the romanized form in the table, that would be eventually generated. So outside, jan, outside, bak, jan, window, bak, outside, il, just the object marking top or object marking particle. However, it's translated as of by Google here. Bo is actually again, like another little disaster. So we see like bo on its own is not being translated, so we actually need to add the boda, the present form of I'm sorry, we need to just to add the present form of we need to print the dictionary form, which to add this da to convert this to the dictionary form. Now we see that this is the word to see. So this is something that is done automatically by the script as well. So it doesn't work always that great, but in most cases it tries to convert the verbs into the dictionary form, and then the dictionary form is also taken in order to conjugate the verb. So let's say you know how to say to see, so it's not really see, it's more like to see. But what if I want to say I see, I saw, I will see, right? So it's already the matter of conjugating the word, this dictionary form of the verb boda, right? So we don't know this, yeah? So we need to find a way how to do it. So I need to go to another site, copy paste this, so just to demonstrate you. So if I just go to my Korean verb app, which I'm applying web scraping techniques to in order to actually extract this sort of an information. So I just I need to copy this verb, I need to paste this in, I need to search for it, and now I see that, let's say declarative present would be 봐요, and let's say declarative past informal hi 봤어요, and future would be 볼 거예요. Okay, so this is very long, and why not to automate this process? So this is actually most likely, like I would say, the content of that initial blog post by Niamh Kingsley that I've been introducing in the beginning of this video. So she was describing something similar to what I've just described to you guys here using this Google Translate. So that's the entry point where you, as a Korean learner, you actually do realize that you need some sort of a tool to automate the process of breaking down the Korean text into the smaller chunks until it gets tokenized, like word by word, meanwhile associating the type of speech and what else, the translation and the conjugation rules for verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Okay, so now without further ado, I would actually go and demonstrate how the script that I've developed actually works. So let's go to my GitHub. There would be a link in the description below, so it's free and open source, so you can use it on your own without any issues. So it's called Korean Vocabulary, and well, actually you can just go like download zip, and this would work for you. I already have the copy on my local system, so I will go to that sort of a copy, and here is my copy. So here, go into the source folder. So the script to run is called vocabulary.py, and the input the Korean tags that would be used as an input should be pasted into this file, which is called Korean.txt. We don't yet have an output, so this folder is empty. Okay, so let's just open this kind of file here, and then we go and grab our Korean text to auto-generate the dictionary from, and it might work as like so, but we can also add some new lines. It doesn't really matter where exactly I break the words because it won't affect the translation really. So feel free to break it down however you want. The translate.com website that I'm using for the reference of for a translation reference doesn't take the new line characters into account, so this is quite pretty nice as well. So here is the input text, and now, well, I can actually show you how the script itself works for those programmers interested. So it's relatively simple. So we just import the packages, creating the instance of the tokenizer, opening the file, getting the input text, storing this to the Korean text variable. Then we're tokenizing the text. Then we loop over all the tokens within the text and do the following thing. So we do a translation routine for every single word in case if the conjugation details are needed to get obtained. We also do that as well. And eventually we do formulate this vocabulary kind of like data structure, which is the list of dictionaries, and then we optionally add in this present, past, future tenses, and then we just creating this HTML template that is empowered by the Jinja 2 template to make it easier to dynamically generate the responsive HTML table using jQuery and Data Tables plugin to get the eventual output. And actually here we do run our rendering part, and eventually we write the output HTML file to this kind of folder. That's kind of it. So without further ado, let me actually open the terminal in the current working directory, and by simply type in vocabulary.py, I run the script. Python 3 obviously. So Python 3 vocabulary.py. So it's loading because this natural language processing library code NLPy takes a little bit of a time to get initialized. But once it's done, it starts using kind of web scraping techniques in order to start making the requests to the translator, to translate.com. And for those that need actually the conjugation rules, it also makes some additional requests to obtain this conjugated forms for verbs. Okay, and by the way, it also converts the verb to the standard, to the dictionary form, and that is to make so. I do provide some additional parameters to the tokenizer. So I say stem equals to true. Okay, so this allows to add this da at the end. Okay, and eventually, yeah. So it just takes a little bit of a time, but it's really worth to do that. Yeah, by the way, it skips things like punctuation because it doesn't mean that much of a grammatical value. And eventually he translates the entire phrase. And from now on, you see like this vocabulary.html file has appeared. So we can actually go to the HTML file and open our vocabulary. And now we have the original text, now we have the English translation, and then we have a word-by-word breakdown of all the sentence that we have, meanwhile dissociating the type, translating, providing some conjugated forms, and so on and so on. Well, in some cases, it doesn't work in some cases because Bonica doesn't actually treats this both to be a noun and not as the verb. But this is the matter of the built-in CoNLPy library, which is really complicated on its own. So kind of like which actually shows us that the same word might represent kind of different parts of speech. But I just didn't make I didn't go for providing this conjugation forms for all the types of speech, because in that case it would be going for some weird things like giving the conjugations to the nouns that are not about to be ever conjugated. So in order to avoid that sort of a confusion and misunderstanding, I just decided to drop it. But in the case if, let's say, this would be the verb, not the noun, in that case it would be really easy to actually get the exact conjugation forms for the verbs. So let's say the word gada, which means to go, for some reason translated as go to, but literally this means to go, and we have the present tense gayo, gosoyo, past tense galgoyo, future tense, and this is it's extremely helpful and very useful. Okay guys, so I think that's it from my side. So feel free to use the search to either search for particles. So jo sa is just Romanized Korean, which means particle. So if you want to have a look at all the particles being used, you can just use this just jo sa. You can check for all the nouns, for all the verbs, for all, not the verbs, but verb, for all the verbs, for all the adverbs, for all the adjectives, and so on. For all the nouns, probably been demonstrating that already, for all the nouns as well. So this is kind of how it works, and I really hope this would be helpful for you guys learning Korean just like I do. So again, like as I've been mentioning already, this script is free and open source, so you just need to download the folder to install the dependencies using pip install, and then just run this single script vocabulary.py. Just don't forget to input the text to the Korean.txt where you want to have this, the text that you actually want to auto-generate a dictionary for. So this is kind of it, and if you have any issues with setting up the programming, the development environment or something, or if you just have some sort of a phrase that you want to auto-generate the vocabulary for, feel free to order those sort of things from me. So I would be happy to make some to provide you some HTML files with this like auto-generated dictionaries that you can run on whatever device, having a web browser basically, so you can learn from the smartphone, from the tablet, no matter what the operating system is. And so when it won't even be relying on the internet, because this is the local static HTML file. So hope this really makes sense to you guys. So this is it from my side. Thanks for watching until the next time, and take care.